Amelia Carter stood in the center of the grand ballroom, the glow of crystal chandeliers reflecting off her elegant silver gown. It was her husband Ethan's birthday, a night she had spent weeks planning down to every last detail. The guests were powerful people, investors, tech leaders, and journalists. Everyone was there to celebrate the charming CEO of Carter Dynamics. Ethan stood on stage, a glass of champagne in hand, flashing his confident smile. "I have to thank my beautiful wife for putting this together," he said. The crowd clapped politely. Then his tone changed. "She might not know much about business, but at least she knows how to throw a party." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Amelia's heart tightened, but she forced a smile. Inside, she felt that familiar sting, the kind that comes from being humiliated by someone you once trusted completely. She lifted her glass to hide her trembling hand, pretending not to care. As the music swelled again, waiters moved between the guests. Amelia tried to keep her composure, greeting people, pretending everything was fine. But she saw Ethan from across the room, already on his third drink, laughing too loudly, basking in attention. Then it happened. A waiter accidentally brushed against Ethan, spilling a bit of champagne on his sleeve. Ethan's face darkened. Someone whispered something Amelia couldn't catch. And in a flash of anger, Ethan turned toward her. "Are you happy now? You've embarrassed me enough tonight." Before she could answer, his hand struck her face. The sound cut through the music like a whip. Gasps echoed around the ballroom. Glasses froze midair. Amelia didn't move. Her cheek burned, but her body went cold. The world seemed to slow down. The shocked faces, the murmurs, the embarrassment, she could feel like heat on her skin. Ethan's eyes widened slightly, realizing what he had just done. But it was too late. Amelia stood tall. She didn't cry, didn't shout. She just looked at him, straight into his eyes, and smiled. It wasn't a sweet smile. It was calm, knowing, and dangerous. That single smile made the whole room uneasy. It was as if everyone could sense that something inside her had changed. Ethan tried to speak, but Amelia turned away, adjusting her hair where his hand had struck. The guests began whispering, phones already out, capturing the moment that would soon be everywhere online. As the lights flickered and the music stumbled to a stop, Amelia walked toward the exit, steady, graceful, her heels clicking against the marble floor. That night, the woman everyone thought was just a pretty face became someone entirely different. The slap that was meant to humiliate her would become the spark that changed everything. Because that night, Amelia Carter stopped being Ethan's wife and started becoming her own power. She was once a sharp business consultant who helped Ethan build his company, Carter Dynamics, from the ground up. Back then they were a team. Two ambitious dreamers who believed they could change the world. Amelia handled the strategy, the investors, the presentations. Ethan was the face, the charming talker who could make anyone believe in their vision. Together, they worked late nights in a tiny apartment, sharing pizza boxes and big dreams. When Carter Dynamics finally started gaining attention, Ethan became busier and hungrier for fame. And when they got married, he changed completely. "You don't need to work anymore," he told her. "You should focus on being my wife." Amelia laughed at first, thinking he was joking. But he wasn't. One by one, she let go of her own goals. She sold her startup shares to fund his company's first round of investment. She helped train his early employees and even wrote the pitch deck that won him millions. Yet when success came, it was Ethan who stood on the stage, smiling for cameras, thanking the hard-working men at Carter Dynamics, not once mentioning her. At first, she told herself it didn't matter. Marriage was about partnership, right? But soon, she realized Ethan's version of partnership meant control. He criticized her clothes, her tone, even her friends. He wanted her to look perfect but never outshine him. Every dinner, every party, every public moment was part of his image, and she was just another part of it. Behind closed doors, Ethan became cruel. He'd raise his voice over small things, twist her words, and make her doubt herself. "You're lucky I keep you around," he once said during an argument. That night, Amelia didn't cry. She just quietly saved the text messages and emails, the proof of how far he had fallen from the man she once loved. She stopped trying to win his affection. Instead, she began paying attention. Every document he left on his desk, every deal he bragged about, she took note. Amelia was no longer the naive wife who believed love meant silence. She started keeping records, contracts, bank statements, files with her maiden name, Amelia Rhodes. She didn't plan revenge, not then. She just wanted to protect what little she still owned of herself. Grace was the only one who truly knew how bad things had become. Grace had been her friend since college, now a lawyer with a fierce sense of justice. When she saw Ethan belittle Amelia at parties, she'd squeeze her friend's hand under the table, silently promising support. "One day you'll be free," she'd whisper. Then there was Daniel, Ethan's chief financial officer. Quiet, loyal, but tired of Ethan's arrogance. He had watched for years as Ethan took credit for other people's ideas. He knew Amelia's real role in building the company. Over time, Daniel and Amelia built an unspoken understanding, a shared frustration toward the man who thought he owned everyone around him. But not everyone stood by her. Vivian, Ethan's mother, never liked Amelia. She saw her as a threat, someone who didn't know her place. She'd make snide comments at family dinners. "Ethan's success brought you luxury, dear, don't forget that." When Ethan insulted Amelia, Vivian would just smile, sipping her wine. "He's under a lot of stress, dear. Don't make him upset." Amelia learned to stay silent, but silence doesn't mean weakness. Every insult, every betrayal, every night she spent staring at the ceiling wondering what went wrong. All of it built something inside her. Something patient, something powerful. By now their marriage was just for show. To the world, they were the perfect couple, smiling in magazine photos, hosting charity galas, traveling first class. But behind those smiles was a woman slowly disappearing, replaced by someone colder, wiser, and quietly ready. She still wore the ring. She still smiled at events. But her eyes had changed. They no longer held love, only clarity. She had given everything to help Ethan rise. Now, all she had left was the truth, and a carefully kept collection of documents that could destroy him if she ever chose to use them. She didn't want revenge. Not really. She just wanted peace. She wanted her life back. But that night, when Ethan slapped her in front of everyone, something inside her finally broke, or maybe, finally woke up. All the years of betrayal and pain came together in one sharp, quiet realization. He had built his empire on her sacrifices, and without her, it could crumble just as easily. Amelia Carter had spent years being invisible in her own story, but not anymore. That same night, after the last guest left and the laughter faded, the silence in the penthouse was heavy. The air still smelled of expensive perfume and champagne, but the mood had turned cold. Ethan slammed the door behind him and threw his jacket across the room. "Do you have any idea how much you embarrassed me tonight?" he shouted. His face was red, his words slurred from all the alcohol. "You stood there like some poor little victim, making me look like a monster in front of everyone." Amelia stood near the window, calm and still. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just looked at him quietly, letting his words fill the room. Inside, her heart was steady, almost peaceful. Ethan kept yelling, pacing back and forth. "Do you realize what people will say about me now? My investors were there. My board members." He pointed a finger at her. "You always ruin everything." Amelia took out her phone and placed it on the side table, recording every word. He didn't notice. He was too busy shouting, blaming, and breaking whatever was left of their marriage. When he finally ran out of energy, he grabbed another drink, muttered something cruel under his breath, and stumbled into the bedroom. Within minutes, he was passed out on the bed, snoring loudly. Amelia stood in the hallway for a long moment, staring at him. This was the man she had loved, trusted, and built a life with. But all she could feel now was emptiness. She turned away and walked toward his home office, a room she hadn't entered in months. The door creaked softly as she pushed it open. His desk was messy, papers scattered, a glass of whiskey half finished beside his laptop. She started to tidy the desk out of habit, but then she saw it, a stack of printed documents with a red tab. Her eyes caught the words, "Merger Agreement." Her stomach tightened. She remembered this document. Months ago, she had helped Ethan draft it. It was supposed to be a joint merger with a tech firm, a big deal that would take Carter Dynamics to the next level. But as she flipped through the pages, she realized something had changed. The new version of the contract gave Ethan full control of Carter Dynamics. And in the fine print, she saw the clause that froze her out completely. Her silent 20% stake, the only thing she still owned, would be void if the merger was signed before midnight. She looked up at the clock on the wall. It was 11:15 p.m. For a few seconds, she just stood there, the sound of the clock ticking loud in the quiet room. Her mind raced. Ethan had been planning this. He wanted her gone, not just from his life, but from everything they had built together. Amelia took a deep breath and sat down in his chair. Her hands stopped shaking. Her expression hardened. If he thought she was weak, he was about to learn how wrong he was. She picked up her phone and dialed Grace. "I need your help," she said in a calm, steady voice. "Send me the digital files from our last review of Carter Dynamics shares. Right now." Grace didn't ask questions. "I'm on it," she replied. Next, Amelia called Daniel. It was late, but he answered immediately. "Amelia? Are you okay?" "No," she said quietly. "But I will be. I need the internal access data you mentioned before, the one Ethan doesn't know about." Daniel paused. "You're really going to do this?" "Yes," she said. "I've been patient long enough." By the time she hung up, the plan had already started forming in her mind. Everything she had quietly prepared over the years, the records, the shares, the access, it was time to use them. She opened Ethan's laptop, found the merger document's digital copy, and began scanning it. Her fingers moved quickly but carefully, her face expressionless. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid. In the distance, she could hear Ethan's muffled snoring. He had no idea his entire empire was slipping away, not because of an accident, but because of the woman he had humiliated. The moment he slapped her, he hadn't just lost control of his temper. He had lost his company. And Amelia Carter, the woman he once called just a pretty face, was about to prove that she was the sharpest mind in the room. Amelia spends the next few hours executing her plan with calm precision. The city outside the window is quiet, but inside her, a storm is brewing. She sits at Ethan's desk, laptop open, files spread out in front of her. Every click, every keystroke, feels like a step closer to her freedom. First, she opens a hidden account, one she had created years ago when she still believed in safety nets, not revenge. Her name, Amelia Rhodes, still appears as co-founder of Carter Dynamics. Ethan never knew about it. He had always been too confident, too careless to think she'd keep a paper trail. She takes a deep breath and begins transferring ownership of her 20% shares into a private holding company she controls under her maiden name. The process is slow and detailed, but she doesn't rush. Her hands don't shake. Not anymore. Next, she messages Daniel. Within minutes, he sends her encrypted files, key internal data, server access logs, and valuation reports that Ethan thought only he had. Daniel had been waiting for this moment too, tired of Ethan's arrogance and lies. "This data will allow you to sell your shares fast," Daniel says over the phone. "But once you do it, there's no going back." "I know," Amelia replies softly. That's the point. When she finally hits send, the ownership transfer begins to move through the system. Her shares are being sold, not to just anyone but to Ethan's biggest competitor, Archer Tech. As the progress bar inches forward, memories flood her mind like short, painful flashes. She remembers the first time Ethan called her stupid. They were newly married, working late one night, when she disagreed with one of his business ideas. He laughed and said, "You're smart for a woman, but you don't understand how real companies work." That night, she cried in the bathroom, then told herself it was just stress. She remembers the night she found messages between him and another woman, a young intern from his company. When she confronted him, he twisted the story, saying she was insecure and jealous. She ended up apologizing to him for even asking. And then, she remembers her father's voice, gentle but firm, on the day she told him she was marrying Ethan. "Never let a man own what you built," he said. "Love him, but keep your mind in your name." She had laughed back then. Now those words echo in her ears as a warning she failed to follow. Until tonight. The clock shows 2:45 a.m. Amelia's eyes burn, but she keeps going. The documents upload, the ownership shifts, the deal closes. Every minute feels like shedding a layer of the past. Suddenly her phone starts buzzing. Ethan. Then again. And again. He's awake. She imagines him stumbling through the penthouse, realizing she's gone. His anger rising as he checks his phone, his laptop, the missing files. The image doesn't scare her. It fuels her. She turns off her phone. Across town, Amelia sits in a quiet rented office that Grace had arranged for her. Small, simple, and safe. The night air seeps through the cracked window, carrying the distant hum of the city. She watches the last confirmation email appear on her screen. Transaction complete. Carter Dynamics shares successfully transferred. It's done. Amelia leans back in her chair, a long, shaky breath escaping her. For a moment, she feels a strange sadness. Not for Ethan, but for the woman she used to be. The woman who believed in him, who gave up everything for love, who kept hoping things would change. That version of her is gone now, replaced by someone stronger and far more dangerous. Grace arrives with 2 cups of coffee, looking both proud and worried. It's all over the news, Amelia, she says, setting a cup down beside her. Once they realize what's happened, everyone will know. You're about to make headlines. Amelia looks at the screen. The company she built, now under Archer Tech's control. She smiles faintly, her voice calm and cold. Good, she says. Let them know what happens when you humiliate the wrong woman. Grace studies her for a moment. Do you feel bad? Amelia's eyes soften. A little. But not for him, she says. I feel bad for the woman I was, the one who thought silence was strength. Outside, dawn begins to break, the first light spilling across the skyline. Amelia sips her coffee, feeling the weight of years lift off her shoulders. By the time Ethan realizes what she's done, it will be too late. His empire will belong to someone else, and the woman he once tried to control will be the name the world remembers. Amelia watches the sun rise, her face calm and unreadable. For the first time in a long time, she isn't afraid of what comes next. Morning. Ethan wakes to chaos. His phone won't stop ringing. His company's servers are down, his lawyers are panicking, and his inbox is flooded with urgent messages. He stumbles out of bed, confused and hungover, trying to piece together what's happening. He grabs his phone and sees the headline flashing across every news site. Archer Tech acquires Carter Dynamics in overnight deal. His blood runs cold. What? He whispers, scrolling through the article. It lists the details. A sudden share transfer, an unexpected sale, and a mysterious co-founder who finalized the deal just before midnight. His hands shake as he throws on a suit and rushes to the office. The elevator ride feels endless. When the doors open, chaos greets him. Employees whisper, phones ring nonstop, and the CFO, Daniel, stands quietly by the glass wall, avoiding his eyes. Where's Amelia? Ethan growls, storming toward his office. Get me my wife right now. But when he bursts through the door, he freezes. Amelia is already there, sitting calmly in his chair, legs crossed, a quiet smile on her face. The same smile she gave him the night before. Good morning, Ethan, she says softly. Rough night. Ethan slams the door behind him. What did you do? He shouts. Do you have any idea what's happening? The company's gone. Everything I built. Amelia cuts him off. Everything we built, she says, standing up slowly. You just forgot that part. He laughs bitterly. You think you're smart? You're finished, Amelia. I'll destroy you for this. I'll call the board. The board already knows, she interrupts, her tone cool and even. And they've moved on. You're not their problem anymore. Ethan steps closer, his voice sharp. You think you can take my company? You're nothing without me. Amelia doesn't flinch. Instead, she picks up her phone, opens an audio file and presses play. Ethan's own voice fills the room. Cruel, loud and undeniable. You always ruin everything. You're lucky I keep you around. You're nothing without me. Then the sound of the slap, the gasp, the silence that followed. Ethan's face drains of color. You recorded me? I recorded the truth, she replies simply. You built your image on lies and control. But lies don't last forever. He opens his mouth to speak, but she steps closer, her calmness sharper than anger. You humiliated me in front of the world, Ethan. You thought I'd just cry and forgive you. Instead, I remembered who I am. She turns her laptop toward him. On the screen are signed documents showing the legal ownership transfer of her shares. Documents all dated and time-stamped before midnight. I never lost my rights, she says. You just assumed I was too weak to use them. Ethan grips the edge of the desk, his knuckles white. You sold it to Archer Tech? I didn't just sell it, Amelia replies. I made a deal. She walks around the desk, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor. I negotiated full leadership of a new division, a women-led innovation branch under Archer Tech. They're calling it the Phoenix Division. And I'll be running it under my own name, Amelia Rhodes. Her maiden name. The one she had almost forgotten. Ethan stares at her, speechless. You ruined me, he finally says. No, she replies gently. You ruined yourself. I just stopped protecting you. The office is silent except for the faint hum of the city below. Outside, Daniel knocks on the glass door and nods at Amelia. It's done, he says quietly. The press conference starts in 10 minutes. Amelia nods, gathering her papers. She looks at Ethan one last time. You can keep your lies, your ego, your anger. I'll keep my freedom. He tries to follow her, but Daniel steps in his way. Ethan's phone rings again. Reporters, investors, everyone demanding answers. His empire is crumbling. And the woman he once silenced is walking away, stronger than ever. Downstairs, cameras flash as Amelia enters the press room. Her face appears on every major news channel. Confident, calm, reborn. She speaks clearly. This isn't about revenge. It's about rebuilding. For years, I stood behind someone else's name. Today, I stand behind my own. By evening, her name, Amelia Rhodes, trends across every platform. The world that once saw her as Ethan Carter's wife, now knows her as the brilliant woman who took back her power. Back in his dark office, Ethan watches the screen in silence. Her voice echoes through the speakers, confident and free. He can't escape it. He can't undo it. The power shift is complete. The man who once silenced her now has to live with her success shining louder than his name ever did. Weeks later, Amelia moves into a smaller, sunlit apartment. The walls are bare, but they feel free. She no longer needs the luxury penthouse or the expensive furniture that once made her feel trapped. This new space is quiet, peaceful, and completely her own. Every morning, she wakes early, makes coffee, and opens her laptop, not to fix Ethan's messes, but to build something new. She names her new project the Phoenix Initiative. It's a mentorship program for women who lost their confidence or careers because of toxic relationships or controlling partners. Amelia shares her story, not with bitterness, but with hope. She helps women rewrite their resumes, start businesses, and reclaim their voices. Emails pour in from across the country, women thanking her for speaking out. Grace visits one evening, bringing takeout and a bottle of wine. They sit on the floor, laughing like old times. You really did it, Grace says softly. You burned the whole thing down and rose from it. Amelia smiles. No, gracie. He did it to himself. I just stopped saving him. They toast quietly, to peace, to freedom, to starting over. Meanwhile, news about Ethan spreads everywhere. His reputation collapses. The investors file lawsuits. Employees leave in droves. His mother, Vivian, cuts all ties, blaming him for ruining the family name. Ethan tries to call Amelia once. She sees the missed call, then deletes it without hesitation. There's nothing left to say. In the evenings, Amelia walks to the nearby park, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. For the first time in years, she breathes without fear, without pretending. She's not Mrs. Carter anymore. She's Amelia Rhodes, the woman who rebuilt her life, her name, and her power. Her story isn't about revenge. It's about freedom. And as she closes her laptop and whispers goodnight to herself, she knows, this time, everything she builds will belong only to her. Amelia sits alone on her balcony, sipping tea as the soft morning light fills the room. The city hums quietly below her, but up here, everything feels still, calm, clear, and free. Her phone buzzes. It's an email from Ethan. The subject line reads, I'm sorry. She opens it, reads the long message filled with excuses, regrets, and promises to change. Her face stays calm, no anger, no sadness, just quiet understanding. When she finishes reading, she simply presses delete. The phone screen goes dark. She whispers to herself, you can't apologize your way out of who you are. Amelia takes another sip of tea, letting the warmth steady her. Then she opens her laptop and begins typing a proposal for her new company, a project that will create opportunities for women in tech. As she types, her thoughts drift into a quiet reflection. Sometimes the slap that breaks you is the same one that wakes you. That night, I didn't just lose my husband. I found myself. She pauses, looks out at the rising sun and smiles. The camera slowly pulls back. Amelia sitting on her balcony, bathed in morning light, peaceful and strong. Fade out. Hi, besties 2 hearts, thank you so much for watching till the end. Sunrise. If you felt inspired by Amelia's story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories every week. Speech balloon sparkles. See you in the next one. Bye. Waving hands, sparkling heart.